Okay, cool. Let me test that the sound's working, and then if that's working properly, then we'll get started. Okay, it looks like the live broadcast is probably like 30 seconds behind from where I am. So, okay, cool. Okay, yeah, it seems to work properly. Okay, cool. Well, welcome everyone to the Construct workshop for Intro to Game Development with Construct. So, what we are going to get started with today is building a short video game with this tool called Construct. It's a visual game editor that's pretty easy and fun to use. And kind of goes through, I mean, it kind of starts teaching you the basics of thinking like a programmer as well. So I like it a lot better, and having tested it with other programmers that I know, many of us actually like it better than other things like Scratch or other beginner sort of drag and drop programming environments, because it does really get you in the mindset of a programmer a lot more than just some of the other tools out there. So let me show you what we're going to make really quickly. It's going to be this ghost shooter game. So you're going to control this guy, and you can see he's going to be able to shoot these bullets, and then these bullets are going to hopefully kill the zombies. So we're going to make most of this in an hour. The rest of it you can kind of do in your own time afterwards. But it's going to be a lot of fun, and we'll kind of learn the basics and do a few things with Construct over here. Sounds good? Okay. So the biggest thing, though, is that Construct unfortunately does not work on Mac. So this workshop is only for people with Windows PCs. If you do want to learn how to use Construct or a Construct-like tool and you're on a Mac, what I've heard was good is there are two other tools that I've heard that I should recommend. One is Game Maker. So let me paste the links into here. But this workshop isn't really going to cover either of these. So one is Game Maker. Oh, comments can't contain links. Okay, so Game Maker, if you just search on Google or Yahoo or Bing, Game Maker. The second thing is Game Salad, which is also kind of similar. Okay, so what we're going to be doing is following this guide. It's called The Beginner's Guide to Construct 2. There's a link to it in the bottom of the YouTube comments. Sorry, the YouTube description. Or if you go to codeday.workshops.eventbrite.com, the site where there's all the Code Day links, if you go to the tutorial link, you'll open up the tutorial. So I want all of you guys to open up the tutorial. Also, you'll need to download Construct for this. So if you see in the tutorial, literally on the first page of it, it says, if you haven't already, grab a copy of the latest release of Construct here, click on that link, and start downloading Construct. So I'm going to give you like 3 minutes, so I'll wait until 12:07 on my clock to download and install. I know that not everyone's going to be able to finish downloading and installing it by then. But remember, this stream also you can rewind it if you'd like. And also we're going to be really following this tutorial fairly closely. So I'm going to be walking you through this tutorial. But if you like, I mean, the tutorial is going to have most of the in-depth information. So otherwise, I'll be here for questions if you want to ask for it live. Okay. So Master Sparky says this download is really slow. That's odd because I just downloaded it a few moments ago, actually. Let's see. So I'm downloading this at about 2 megabytes, 1 to 2 megabytes a second. Okay, now it's loading down a little. Okay, yeah, maybe their servers, maybe we're overloading their servers with 20-something, 40 people watching this. Okay. Okay, well, that is something good to know for the future. But what we are going to do, I'll just wait for you guys to download it right now. I'll remember in the future to mirror construct as well, so that there's a faster downloader as well. Yeah, right now I live in the middle of the exurbs, and you know, kind of farther away from Seattle than most people live, and all of my friends are just like, Ed, why do you live so far away from civilization? But apparently Comcast upgraded our internet to 50 megabits download and then 10 megabits upload. So I'm pretty happy with that. And all of my friends that live closer to Seattle are on worse internet and are pretty jealous. So okay, cool. So he said, as I said, I'll give you until 12:07 to download. So 30 more seconds. Otherwise, we'll start. And as I said earlier, you can always rewind this. So by the way, to introduce myself, so my name is Edward, and I run Student R&D and Code Day. So Student R&D is the organization that runs Code Day. We're a nonprofit organization. Kind of the mission for what we're doing is just to get more students all across the country building things with technology, and you know, making it into like a mainstream hobby. Just like, you know, as some people would go home and, you know, start drawing, or, you know, playing soccer or playing guitar, you know, doing more things with technology. So Code Day, if you haven't already seen Code Day, go to codeday.org. It's an event that we're doing in 1 week, so be sure to tell your friends, because we're doing it for the first time in a bunch of different cities all across the country. So if you're in the Pacific time zone, Mountain time zone, Central time zone, Eastern time zone, we have events for you. So register if you haven't already for an event in a city close to you. I mean, it's basically in almost every single major city across the United States, and so there's no reason not to register unless you're busy next weekend. Basically, you'll get to build something awesome in 24 hours with friends, with other people. It's going to be a lot of fun. So Spencer Atkin is asking, is this pointless to watch if you're on a Mac? Yes, it's going to be hard to watch if you're on a Mac, unfortunately. I mean, you're not going to be able to use this tool. If you have a like virtual machine sort of tool like Parallels or VirtualBox or whatnot, then you can use Construct on your Mac. Otherwise, you can't use the tools that I'm going to show you today on the Mac for this tutorial. As I said earlier, try looking to more Game Salad or Game Maker, which are kind of similar. Just this tutorial specifically is on Construct. So, okay, well, if you have Construct installed now, you should be able to open it up, and you'll get this brand new, you know, like open screen like this. It might ask you to update or so on and so forth. But what we're going to do is we're going to click on New Project, and it gives us a lot of options for default sort of things that we want. We're just going to say New Empty Project. Okay, so if you've used, you know, almost like any sort of tool on the computer before, it kind of looks familiar, right? You know, you have kind of empty document sort of thing in the middle. You're going to have a properties bar on the side, which kind of tells you a little bit about what you're editing, and then little more things on the right sidebar as well. It also has toolbars on the top. So, I mean, it's pretty standard program. And what I'm going to show you here is, so notice we have two things on the main canvas. So on the white thing, which is the canvas, we actually see that there's a kind of a dotted line. So this dotted line is actually showing you the window of the game of where you're going to be playing. Another thing that I want to point out that we're going to use a lot is this play button at the top left corner. If you click on it, it's going to open up a web browser, and it's going to show you, and you see it's just a white screen right now, but it's actually showing me this portion of the white screen that's surrounded by the dotted line. So we got Construct open here, and now we're gonna do this. So 99 Kierman is asking, are there any tutorials available in Mac? So the other three tutorials that we'll be doing today will work on Mac. The only issue with those is those are for people who have some experience with coding already. So if you're brand new to coding, they're going to be a little harder for you to follow. But yes. Okay. You finished downloader.exe. I don't think there's a downloader.exe here. I don't know. I mean, this link just went to directly download the game, so I'm not exactly sure. But okay, so let's get started. So I'd like you to keep this guide that I have open with you as well, because as I said earlier, we're going to be following this, and you know, after we finish this this workshop, I'd like you to also continue on with this guide, because there's a few things that we won't be able to cover today in this workshop that will still be in this guide. Construct has a bunch of really cool guides, so if you go to the tutorials tab on their website, it will just show you quite a few different great tutorials that you should follow and look at, and it will help you learn a lot before code day starts. So, okay. So the first thing that we want, according to this tutorial, which makes sense, is that we want a repeating background tile. So you know, you saw the final product, the game here, which it had, you know, some really crackly, where it had this really crackly sort of background. You know, right now we have a white background. You saw that just now. So we want this crackly background. So what we're going to do is we're going to right-click on this image that's in the tutorial, and we're going to save this image. We're just going to use some of the tools that or some of the art that Construct's giving us, so we can make this game really quickly. So we're going to save this background image to some folder on our hard drive. Now in Construct here, what we're going to do is we're going to double-click on the background. Just double-click anywhere in the white space on the background, and it asks you, insert new object. And so this is going to be one of the primary things that we'll be using in Construct today, the insert new object object dialog, because pretty much everything that is in your game is an object. You know, if you have a guy in your game, he's an object. If you have a girl in your game, she's an object. We're not objectifying women here today, but you know, everything in the game is an object. You know, if we add a bullet in this game, it's an object. So you can see here there's several different objects. There are arrays, dictionaries, there's form controls like buttons. What we want to do, there's even input objects like gamepad, keyboard, mouse, touch, add objects. What we want to do is add what we call a tiled background. So a tiled background is a background image that we're going to use that's repeated across the screen. So this is exactly what we want as this crackly thing. So we're going to insert a tiled background. Just going to click anywhere on here, and it's going to say, hey, edit this image. Right now we have this blank image as your tiled background. What do you want as it? So let's open an image, and then we're going to go to wherever we downloaded that background image to. For me, it's the downloads folder, and then open up bg.png, which is the background image. So you can see now we got some of this crackly background on my document. Unfortunately, my document is still mostly white. So I mean, if you see, if I click play, this is not quite what we want. So right now we're going to actually fix a few things on our game to make that happen. So let me check the comments really quickly. Okay, cool. Do Construct games work with VR headsets? Not really. Construct is a HTML5 game editor. It doesn't really do 3D. Mostly it does 2D. Okay, so we're going to change two things. On the properties, if we just click in the background, it's going to give us a property here that says layout size. Right now it says 1708 by 960. We're going to change this to 1280, 1024. This layout size just says in pixels how big we want this entire white canvas here to be. Why we're choosing 1280 by 1024 is that's just the size that we want, that the tutorial kind of wants. You can have it as whatever you want, but really for now we're just going to stick to the tutorial's instructions to make things a bit easier. The second thing that we're going to do is we're going to click on this background object that we have, and we're going to change two things. One is there's a position here, and it says 381, 200. So these are XY coordinates starting from the top left-hand corner for your position, and we want this to be stretching the entire background. So we're going to put the position at 0, 0, so that it snaps to the top left-hand corner. The second thing that we're going to do is we're going to change the size to 1280 by 1024. And the reason is now this background is the background for our entire game world, which is good. Frets on Fire is saying, I've heard Unity is pretty good for 3D stuff, but I'm not sure if it works with a VR headset. Yes, actually Unity does have built-in support for Oculus Rift, for instance. Unfortunately, we're not doing a Unity tutorial, but I mean, Unity is definitely a great tool to learn and build video games on. Okay, so we got the entire world, and now we're done with page 1 of this tutorial, which is awesome. Okay, I'm gonna go to the next page for now, but after we're done with page 2 of the tutorial, then I'll pause and ask if there are any questions with following along. Because basically for this tutorial, I do want you guys to follow along with the tutorial, because I think the best way to learn is by actually doing and building. So if you're just watching, definitely open up Construct and try this out. Of course, you can also do it later, and there's this tutorial that we're following, but I'd highly suggest actually opening it up and trying it out with us. So the other thing that we're going to do here is we're going to actually start adding layers to this this project. So now you can see whenever I click around on the background, now I'm actually highlighting this tiled background. And the thing is, it's supposed to be in the background. We don't really want to deal with the tiled background on a daily basis. So if you've ever used Photoshop or any other image editing tool before, or even maybe a video editing tool, you might be familiar with the concept of layers. You have different layers for different groups of things that you want to edit, and then different layers are on top or below of each other. So you can just kind of make sense of all the art and all the objects that you have on the screen. Okay. I think this should be live again. Sorry about that disruption. Basically, my entire computer froze and crashed, so that was not good. So let's get this back up and running. Okay, great. So it looks like it's back up. All right. So I'm going to have to actually catch back up with the tutorial. So my entire computer froze and crashed. This usually does not happen. But yeah, I mean, one thing that did happen is I didn't save any of my work, and I'm going to have to do it again. So during code day, make sure to save your work, because sometimes people haven't, and it goes, like 16 hours into the 24-hour code day, and they don't save their work, and then they accidentally lose it, which is really bad. So fortunately, I didn't lose too much info, so I'm just going to set the position back to 0, 0, and then size to 80/64. Great, I'm back to where we were. Now, what I was doing before my entire computer crashed was adding things to the layers. So we click on the Layers tab, and instead of your computer crashing and freezing, it should actually bring you to the layer 0 dialog. Well, it shows one layer, layer 0. We're just going to rename this layer. So right-click on it, click Rename. Let's name it to Background. And we're going to click on this Lock button. So now we can drag whatever we want, but we're not going to mess up the background, which is really, really good. We don't want to accidentally mess up things. We don't actually want to end up messing up things. So yeah, maybe I should save, just so I don't accidentally construct. Okay. Great. Now we have the layers up, and then we're going to add some of the game objects. So as you remember, we're a person shooting monsters. So in the second page of the tutorial, it's going to give you images for the person, monster, bullet, and explosion. Just right-click, save all those to your computer. We're going to use all of them because we're making this game. Boom. Player, monster, bullet, explosion, all saved to my computer. Now, how are we going to insert these to Construct? Well, this is if this was a live demo, I would ask you and have someone raise their hand, but here I'm just going to show you. Like before, we double-clicked on the background to insert the background. We're going to double-click on the background, and we're going to insert an image again. Now, if you notice, you click on different things, and it will kind of explain to you what things are. So a construct is really nice because you can explore and see like what you can add and what logic you can add. So what we're going to add is called a sprite, and a sprite is usually a video game programmer's term for just an object that you interact with that moves around on the screen or does stuff on the screen, as opposed to a background which doesn't do anything on the screen. So we're going to add a sprite. We're going to name it, and the reason why we're going to name it instead of just leave it. See, I'll actually just not name it here and just insert. Open up the what is this guy called? The player.png. Okay, so you see here it says objects. This guy is called sprite. Well, right now we can think, okay, we'll remember that sprite is just the player or the guy. But the other thing is, when we have like 5 or maybe 10 or 50 or 100 things, now you're not going to remember what sprite 47 is compared to sprite 72. And especially once we start saying logic, it's going to be hard. So we're going to actually, we want to name it. We want to name it player. Or name it whatever your heart desires, but yes, name it player. So now if we preview this, you can see we have the player on the screen with this background. It's pretty cool. That's our game so far. We made this much. Pretty much looks like we just made something in MS Paint, but pretty good for, I think, 26 minutes plus a computer crashing and needing to be rebooted worth of work. So here's the magic. So with construct, however, I will say there's three things that you need to pay attention to. One is you can insert objects by double-clicking on the background. That's rule number one of construct. Rule number two is, oh shoot, okay, I did this wrong. I needed to add another layer so that this guy could be on this layer that's not the background. So let me move. Okay, so we want to edit his property onto layer 0, which we'll call like the actual game instead of layer 0. So yeah, we have this guy here, and so thing number two is objects have properties. You know, just like if you're in Windows and you right-click on something and you click properties and it tells you info about the thing. Objects in construct have properties. So here on the left-hand side is our properties menu. It shows the name, common stuff about it, behaviors, whatnot. So one, you can insert objects. Two, objects have properties that you can edit. The third thing, which we'll go over soon or later, is there's an event sheet, and then you can add events to make things happen between objects. Henry the Unicorn is asking, can I still access this video after the workshop is over? The answer is yes. Okay, so objects have properties. Properties can be modified, and then you can establish relationships between objects using events. What we're going to do here is we want this guy to move. So we're actually going to add a property. So in the properties menu, there's this section called behaviors. And so the behaviors are kind of construct's way of saying, you know, there's a bunch of, you know, predefined sort of behaviors that you might want your objects to do. We're just going to implement them for you, so you don't have to do all that work. But you can always not have to, you don't always have to use a behavior. You can always do it manually using the event sheet. But for now, we're going to just use the behaviors tab. And with the behaviors tab, we're going to click on the behaviors. It gives us this little menu. We're going to click add new, and we're going to say, we're going to add two behaviors. One is, you can see here, there's general, like bound to layout. There's like movement. So like in terms of movement, there's like 8-direction movement, which we can use the arrow keys to control him and move him in any direction. A bullet movement, where he just moves in one direction. A car movement, where you kind of have to like turn them back and forth and so on and so forth. And other custom movements. So we're just going to do 8-direction. So that's going to make things easier. We're also going to add another property saying bound to layout. So that means he can't leave the game world. Otherwise, you're going to play this game and then he's going to run off the screen. So now if you click and try it out, you have this guy. You can see he's going to bump into the side of the screen. He's not going to like run off the side. Okay, he's going to run off of these sides because remember our game world is a bit bigger. But yeah, now we have this guy we can move. If we add a third property, which is, I believe, scroll to, the scroll to property will always center the view on this object or at the midpoint of multiple objects. Now that's also going to make it so that when I move to the side of the screen, now this guy's still kind of in the middle. So that's what the scroll to property does, which is nice. So try this out. I want to see at least some of you say, yay, I got this working. And then I'll start continuing on to the next section where we'll add monsters. So try it out. See if you get to the point where you can walk around the map. You bounce off the edges of the map unless it's the bottom or sides of the map that you're not at the edge yet, which then it scrolls. Okay, Rich Belgian says, yay, I got this working. So that's one. If you have any questions about some things not working, now is the time to ask that. At the end of about this hour, so we might go until like 1:10 or something like that, but at the end of this hour, then I'll open up questions. So if you want to call in via Skype or whatnot, and or just to my phone and ask specific questions about things, that would be good. When playing the game, it's still a white screen. Did you add the tiled background? It's going to be my first question. If not, I'm not sure, and I can work with you after that. Frets on Fire got it working. So, okay. Since I'm about 30 seconds or so ahead of, or maybe a minute ahead of the actual live broadcast, I'm just going to start continuing on, since I hope that most other people are going to start getting this working. Again, as I said, like you can call in, I'm happy to do screen share or whatnot in a bit. Harry says, for some reason the player doesn't appear in the background when I click play. Make sure the player is on the right layer, because remember, we have two layers here. One is the background, and one is the game. If the player's on the background layer, I'm not sure which image is going to appear on top, but if he's on the game layer, then I can guarantee that the player is going to go on top. So, okay, cool. Let's keep going now. Okay, let's keep going now. Next thing that we're going to do, and I'm just going to read through the guide just to make sure I didn't miss anything specific. Okay, we're done with page 2. Actually, we started adding page 3 stuff, the behaviors and so on and so forth. Okay, so now we're going to add the other objects to the game as well. We're going to add the monster. The monster is going to be sprite again, because that's, it's something that you interact with. So the monster. The monster, what we can do here, like, remember to name it properly. So I'm going to name it. Remember to name it monster. For the monster object, what we're going to do is we're going to add a behavior to it as well. And this time, we just want the monster to really go towards the player in a kind of zombie-like move forwards direction. So we're going to actually just say he's going to have the bullet movement behavior. He's just going to move straight ahead at its current angle. Because he's kind of like a slow bullet moving towards the player. You see here, when we add the bullet behavior, on the left-hand side in the properties menu, it actually shows a few more properties that you can edit about the bullet behavior. So now it says the speed is 400. 400 is the speed in pixels per second. So remember, the layout of this entire thing is 1280 by 1024. That means it would travel 400 of those pixels per second. So here, we're actually going to modify this bullet speed. I think the tutorial says it to put it at 80. So now if you see here, I'm going to just preview this for a second. Now it's moving slowly, versus otherwise you'd have a zombie-like monster moving at you at bullet-like speeds, which is not quite what you wanted. So the other thing that we're going to do, so the other thing that we're going to do is we're going to add the bullet sprite. Let's see, add sprite, open image, bullet. Okay, so on the bullet sprite, we're going to add the behavior. Guess what? The bullet behavior. It's moving at the speed. We're also going to add the behavior destroy outside layout. So once it reaches the edge out of the screen, it's going to disappear, because otherwise your computer is going to keep tracking of the bullets, and it's going to be like, oh yeah, this bullet's like way outside of your game world, but I'm just going to keep track of it, and that's going to cause lag and slow down your game as time goes on. And for this game, it's not a huge deal, but it's good to get in good habits about that. The last thing that we're going to add is the explosions sprite. And just for the bullet and the explosion sprites, just add them off the screen, because they're not something that you want at the start of, on the screen. So for the explosion sprite, what you're going to say is we're actually not really going to use the explosion sprite today. You can do it later on in the tutorial, but we're actually not really going to mess with it today. But the behavior you would add is the fade behavior. So then we'll fade out when the explosion happens. But don't really worry too much about the explosion right now. Right now, all we really want to focus on is the player, the buzzer, and the bullet. Hayek says, is it possible to make a speed variable, like the sprite moves faster over time? Yes, we can actually do that. We'll learn how to do things like that once we start messing around more with the event sheet. So the last thing that we're going to do is we're going to actually create a few more monsters, because one monster is kind of it's not quite a mouthful for the player to deal with. So if you hold down the control button on your computer and click, you're gonna be able to copy this monster. So we're going to copy this monster a few times on the screen. So it's going to be a little more scary. Okay. If that was not very clear, don't worry about it, because we can still do things with one monster on board. So, okay. So now we have the monsters, we have the people, and you can see the monsters right now are kind of just moving in a bullet-like fashion, but they're not really changing directions, they're not really chasing after the player, not really interacting too much with the player at all. So what are we going to do? We're going to use the event sheet. So we're going to click on this tab on the top of the layout area, and it's going to go to the event sheet, which is completely blank. We're going to start out actually by working on the player and making him shoot. After that, we'll make it so that the monsters actually follow you. After that, we'll make it so that you can destroy monsters with your bullets. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to try playing around with this and adding events. So there's one button for you to click on right now, which is Add Event. Let's click on it. And actually, I forgot to do something. Before you go to the event sheet, go back to the main page, double-click on the background, and then add the mouse input mechanism. So that means that tells your game to start keeping track of the mouse, so that we can use the mouse to click and shoot, or we can use the mouse to help you aim. Otherwise, the game's not going to actively keep track of the mouse, because again, if you don't need to keep track of it, that's extra work for the computer to do without much benefit. So we're going to add an event. We're going to say, you can see all the objects that we've added are actually in this list. And the reason is because you can say, hey, when the monster collides with the player, we're going to do this. Or when this happens, we can do that. So in the case of making the player aim his gun at the mouse, we're going to use actually the system dialog. And the reason is the system dialog just has a few things basic to every game that we can use. And so usually you're going to pick these objects when they're conditional, as in like when something happens, or if this thing happened, or while something happens, do this. Right now, we want the mouse always to be aimed, or so we want the player always to be aimed where the mouse is. So we're going to use the system, and here you can see there's a bunch of different conditions or things that can happen. So you can say system when this layer is visible, or when the load is complete, or when the time is like this. What we're going to say is system on every tick. It's right at the top of the general menu. And every tick. What does every tick actually mean? And so when you're playing a game, and the game is we call them video games because they're actually kind of like videos. Videos, as many of you may be aware, run at certain frames per second. There's multiple pictures being displayed every single second. So in a video game, it is literally your computer is computing what should be on the picture, and displaying you the picture at multiple times per second. So every tick is each one of those times that it computes, do this thing. So system on every tick, and then now you can see there's a new button here saying add action. We're going to add this action, and we're going to say we want the player, and we want the player to, and you can see now we can modify properties of the player. The things that we used to be modifying in this left-hand side, we can modify the properties of the player programmatically. So what we're going to say is we want the player to rotate towards this position. Right? We can also set animations, we can do appearances, we can change the size, we can change the position. We're going to have him rotate towards the position. And we're going to say we want him to rotate to these x and y values. Now, what x and y values do we want him to rotate to? Well, you can see here it pops up a menu, and we can find properties of other objects and mess with them. So for the x value, we are actually going to say what's the mouse's x position. So mouse.x. For the y position, we want the player to rotate towards the mouse's y position. And the thing is, like here right now, I'm clicking through these menus, but actually this this mouse.x and mouse.y, which appears here, is actually a JavaScript expression. So you can actually, once you learn a little more JavaScript, actually modify these or type them in yourself. You don't actually have to use this menu, but it's just more visual, so you can see what objects you can interact with, which is really nice. This is one of the reasons why I really personally love Construct. So now we click Done. Now here you see system on every tick. We're going to have the player rotate 0 degrees towards mouse X. Actually, let me make sure I pick the right. Oh, sorry. I did rotate towards position. I meant set angle towards position. Rotate towards position, what it would do is say rotate a certain amount towards that direction. Set angle towards position will literally just have it at that direction. So let's say mouse X and mouse Y. Okay, so now if I play, you can see now my guy spins according to what direction my mouse is at, which is nice. Okay, I'm going to give you a 1 minute break to kind of catch up, and then I'll be here to answer questions as well. Okay. Okay. So, is it possible to make acceleration, like speed? Super Dragon Yoshi says my thing says localhost :50,006. That's perfectly fine for game hosting. Right now, it's hosted on your local computer. No one else can access this website, just you. But so right now, yes, localhost. Like here it says localhost :50,000 for me. Frets on Fire says, how can you set transparency for sprites? Everything except for the explosion was transparent. I'm assuming because they have a white background. Yes, you can set transparency. I believe. See if I click here, there should be a set transparent. I don't quite remember off the top of my head because, but I mean, here's something that you can actually go and look up on the Construct website. The Construct website is very very comprehensive about things. So let's see. Rich Beltran says, I'm pretty sure you have to do it outside and bring it into Construct. I believe I remember that you can do it in Construct. I'm just not remembering the specific thing. I believe it's actually later on in this tutorial because you do build this entire thing in this tutorial. Okay. Okay. So, does everyone, are you guys at this next question? A specific thing. I believe it's actually later on in this tutorial because you do build this entire Okay, let me check my mic really quickly. I have two microphones attached to this computer, so I want to make sure it's selecting the right one. Yeah, it's selecting. That's my default. That is my default. So. Okay, so Frets on Fire says, I don't have mouse showing up under objects with expressions. Make sure you have the mouse object added. So go to Insert New Object, and then make sure you have the mouse object added. So right now, since I already have it added, it's not even going to give me this option. But here you should be able to see mouse if it's not added there. Could you repeat the part where you added the action of the player to the system event? Sure. So system every tick, and then there's an add action dialog. We click on player, set angle towards position, and then now we say mouse X and mouse Y. Make sure we don't have the 0 here. And then click done, and then that should add it. And so the nice thing about construct is now you can kind of just see, like, okay, every tick we want this player to set this angle. Let's figure out what else we have, and you kind of explore all the different options that we have with construct, which is really nice. Okay, so next we're going to make it so this guy can shoot. So we're going to add another event in our event sheet. We're going to say, this time we want it so that whenever we click, we want this guy to shoot. So the event we're going to create, the event trigger is when we have the mouse, and we want to say on click. And then it asks you which button you want clicked. So left, right, middle, and clicked or double clicked. So on the left button being double clicked or being single clicked, we want the player object to shoot something. So we're going to click on player object, and then what we're going to use to shoot is actually, I think, another. It's one of these things. It's in the miscellaneous tab called spawn another object. So we want this guy to spawn another object. You get to choose what object to spawn. So we're going to spawn a bullet. And then we're going to say, we can just ignore these two things for now. So layer 0, image point 0, that's fine. Right? We actually want it to be on layer 1 because remember, our game is on layer 1. The background is on layer 0. So now, if I click play, whenever I click, this bullet's actually going to come and shoot at these guys. Boom, 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 boom. Is that cool? Okay. Now you can see that this bullet is actually coming out of this player's head instead of the gun. You can fix that. There's some more info in the tutorial on how to do that. I'm just going to ignore that portion for now because I want to get through to the more fun stuff, which is making the monsters actually blow up. So, but you can do that. Just wanted to let you know. Okay. So we added all of this on page 4. Got this on page 5. Okay. Now we're going to add the explosions. So how we add the explosions is now we have to, every single time we really work on a game, we have to think logically, right? What do we want to happen when something happens, right? And in this case, when this bullet collides with a monster, we want the monster to kind of die or the explosion to appear or something like that. So we're going to think on this event sheet. We're going to add another event. I say, well, we want it to do it. We want explosion to happen when the monster collides with the bullet, or when a bullet collides with the monster, right? So we're going to click on the bullet and say, when the bullet is on collision with another object. Which object is it on collision with? It's on collision with a monster object. That's a property. I mean, that's a thing. And then you can say the action we want is we want the bullet. We want to destroy the bullet because the bullet shouldn't like keep going unless it's a piercing bullet. We want to destroy the bullet, and then we want the monster to spawn another object. And what object are they going to spawn? They're going to spawn. The explosion. So now, when the bullet hits, you can see you get these explosions with the black backgrounds on them. Okay, the other thing is right now I feel really unloved because the zombies aren't actually chasing me. So another thing that we can do is for the system on every tick, right? Because we want the zombies to chase you every single moment of the game. So that's why we have the system on every tick. We can add another action saying monster, set angle towards position. And just like how we had the player set the angle towards the mouse's position, in this case, we're going to set the monster's angle towards the player's X position and the player's Y position. So now, the monsters are going to follow me. I can shoot at them, and explosions will appear. We can fix the explosions black border. Here it says, see, I haven't done this part in a while. So in explosions portion, we set the blend mode to additive. And then that will make the explosions actually appear like this. So, okay. Cool. So, I mean, really, in less than an hour, we got most of this game done. I mean, there's still some more that you can build in the tutorial, but we have a guy that can walk around, we have monsters that chase after him, and we can shoot at the monsters and they explode. And you know, another thing that we can do is say, on the explosion, we also just have the monster, we also just destroy the monster. So we actually kill the monster. Boom. Now I can actually get rid of these monsters. So that's pretty much how far I wanted to get with this tutorial. I know there's a little more in the tutorial. I know the game isn't really perfect how we made it so far. But the main thing is, you know, in less than an hour, we just figured out how to make a guy move around, monsters chase after him, and him shoot and kill the monsters. I think that's pretty good. There's some more stuff in the tutorial that I think you can follow on in your free time afterwards. You know, either for the rest of today or if you're joining with more of the workshops later today for, you know, on Sunday or on the week before Code Day. But I think you should be able to learn and create something really, really cool. And so I'm going to take questions in like about 5 minutes. I wanted to talk about 2 more things really quickly before that, though. So if you're interested in going to the other workshops, by the way, so at 2 p.m., I'm going to be doing a workshop on how to create an app to read Reddit via text messages. And let me give you a demo of it right now. So let me turn on my webcam again. Where's the webcam? I think I just turned off screen share. Okay, I turned off screen share and it shows my webcam. So I'm going to create an app that. So I'm going to text this number. You can try texting this number as well, 206-456-6132, and just say anything to it. So just say like hi or whatnot. And it's going to show you, it's sent from my Twilio trial account, but it's going to show you the top 5 headlines on Reddit, which are pretty cool. So let's see, the first one is like, my buddy got written up at work after some complaints. If we go to reddit.com, that's probably the top headline on the site right now. Let's see. Yeah, so you can see my buddy got written up at work after some complaints. So it's going to be pretty fun. Can try doing that. So that's at 2 p.m. Pacific time. So that's in about 1 hour. And then at 3 p.m. Pacific time, it's going to be a Splunk workshop on analyzing and creating fun things with data, which Tyler will be doing. And then at 4 p.m., we're going to be building a cookie clicker clone with this tool called Meteor.js. So both of these will require some knowledge of programming. But if you haven't seen Cookie Clicker before, don't get addicted to it. It's a really dumb game, but you click on a cookie. Let's see, let me load it up. Okay, so you click on a cookie, and then you get cookies, and then you can use the cookies to buy more things to get you more cookies. So it's like the basic premise of any like RPG, where you grind to make money, and then you get money to buy better items so you can make more money. But people get really addicted to it. So what we're going to create at the 4 p.m. workshop is a multiplayer version of this called Coder Clicker. So I think okay. So you can sign into it. If I remember my password. Okay, you can sign into it. You can click write line of code to make money, and then you can buy stuff like the U.S. national debt to make you even more money. So it's kind of a fun and addicting game. A really cool intro to building real-time web apps. So okay, so that's pretty much it for the announcements. The last thing is, if you haven't already, make sure to register for Code Day. It's going to be a lot of fun, and it's in about exactly 7 days from now. So make sure to tell your friends, especially for many of the cities. It's the first time we've run Code Day in them. We went from like 12 cities all across the country to 28 cities this season. So make sure to tell your friends to go to Code Day, because it's definitely going to be a lot of fun, and we want to make sure that people know about it in all the different cities. So now, if you guys want, we can go over any questions. So if you would like to call in with any questions that you have about the workshop, or ask any questions in the comments, I can help demo a few things thanks to you as well. Okay, Doomblade says, can you show us how to set it up so that you press keys instead of clicking? So Binding of Isaac key setup. Yeah, so instead of, if you want this guy to shoot when you press a key, the first thing that you want to do is add the keyboard object. And the reason is, remember we added the mouse object to tell the game to listen to the mouse. Now we want to add the keyboard object, and here, this event, instead of mouse on left button clicked, we would say keyboard on key pressed, and then we just say like maybe spacebar, and that will work. You can also set it so I think, yeah, you can add multiple conditions. So on here I can say on key pressed spacebar. I think you can. Oops, this was the wrong one. Okay, but yeah, you can say on key pressed spacebar. Okay, so does anyone have any questions? Say this in the comments really quickly. If you want to add me on Skype, you can add me on Skype under Edward Starcraft, and then I can help you with any questions with this tutorial. Okay, so it looks like no one really has any questions. Okay, sounds good. Well, if no one has any questions, then feel free to join us in about an hour. So it's going to be on going to be on a different YouTube page. But if you go to the Code Day pre-event workshops page again, you can click the link to that YouTube page, and then we will go over how to create an app to read Reddit via text messages. Oh, looks like I got one person who wants a bit of help. So add contacts. Yoshi is asking.
The person who...
Okay. Okay, Yoshi, you can just call me, and then I will pick up. And Rich Beltran says, "Can you explain?" Okay, Super Dragon Yoshi, we can screen share, and then I can help you figure things out. Rich Beltran says, "Can you explain every tick again?" Yes. So how a video game works is that it happens at about 30 frames per second. Just kind of like a movie. So a movie, you might be aware, is a bunch of pictures that are strung together, which makes it look like it's actually moving. But it's actually just 20 or 30 pictures every single second that are appearing on your screen to create that illusion of motion. So what video games do is that the video game core logic inside a program will alternate between two parts of code. One is computing where everything should be, and the second part is displaying a picture based on what everything was computed to be. So every single time, all of the information about the game, like if this guy is moving, if this guy is shooting, if this key is pressed, is being computed, that is called a frame in game terminology. It's also called a tick in some other in some other groups. So on every tick would just mean every single time we compute every single comprehensive piece of information about the game, we're also going to do this as well. And this means see where the mouse is and whatnot, and move the player so he's oriented towards the mouse. So pretty much on every tick, how you can see that is just like every single moment of the game, we want this to happen. And in our case here, every single moment of the game, we want the player to be pointed towards the mouse, and every single moment of the game, we want the monster to be pointed towards the player. No questions about it, right? If we're saying, no, like here when we have this guy shoot the bullet, we don't want this at every single moment of the game, right? If we added this to every tick, I'll show you what happens, right? He's going to shoot a straight line of bullets, which, while it's fun, it's not quite what we expected. So every tick literally means just at every single moment of the game. And when I move the player spawn sprite, spawn the bullet, I just literally told the game every single moment of the game for 30 times a second, I want you to be shooting a bullet. Fritz on Fire says, how would I get it to spawn new monsters at a random position? That's a good question. Again, we're going to add events. I've never actually done this before, so let's see what we can do. So I'm going to say timing-based stuff is a system thing. Okay, so system. Oh, here it says time every X seconds. So let's say every 5 seconds, we want. Let's check monster. Can we say spawn a monster? And say spawn another object, but it doesn't look like we can just spawn a monster directly. So let's say tiled background. tiled background can tiled background spawn another object? I know there's a tool for creating a new object. I just don't quite remember since I haven't. Well, we could just have the player object spawn another object. That's kind of hacky, but we could probably do it this way. So player spawn another object. Let's choose the monster, and layer would be 1. Okay, but it doesn't allow us to. Oh, I guess. This might work. Spawn another object monster, and let's say monster. Set position, X is. And if you see the system expressions here, we can actually have random sort of things. So should be math random. Remember, this is actually just JavaScript. Okay, so here it says random, pass 2 numbers to generate within a range. So random to 1280, random 1024. I think this would work. Let's see. So there was just a monster that appeared here. Yep. So now you can see pretty much every 5 seconds, somewhere randomly on the screen, or not on the screen, but in the game world, then we have a monster green spawn. Sometimes it's off the screen, sometimes it's on the screen. So. Let's see. Munchian says, is the touch input for a smartphone or devices like that? Yes, because this is actually a website. You can upload this to a website, like your own website.com, and play it on a smartphone. So that's what touch input would be for. And a lot of times the touch input is meant to be very similar to mouse input, so you can use it interchangeably if you would like. So we could have actually said on touch instead of on mouse click. But we can't set his angle to the mouse position or to the touch position because there's no constant touch. This guy with Chinese characters on his name says, can you upload this tutorial video to YouTube to let us watch again? Yes, actually this is a live broadcast, so you can see I'm actually watching it live right now, but you can actually just rewind it to wherever I'm at. You can copy this link. So after I'm done, this is actually literally just a tutorial video. Let's see. How do you make the player die if the monsters get to him? How we would do that again. Remember how we made the monsters die? We said the sprite on collision with the monster destroy the sprite, right? We can now add something saying player on collision with the sprite, with the monster, sorry. And then we can add some other thing. Right now, like we could just delete the player object, which would be. But I mean, this is also, I believe, in the tutorial to actually add like lives and so on and so forth. But yeah, the easiest way right now is just to say on the collision with the monster, we're just going to destroy the player. So now, if I walk into this guy, then they all die. So. Huh. This is kind of interesting. Oh, it jumps every 5 seconds. So it's probably something I did with the spawn. Oh, because there's no more player set. Okay. Okay. Let's see. So Rodrigo. Something. Okay, so why is the movement for a player not considered an event while the mouse movement is? Asks Hayek. That's a really good question, actually. So remember, we added the player movement as a behavior. This is an 8-direction behavior. But we don't have to do it this way. This is just a predefined set of events that the creators of Construct has packaged up for us so that we can move him easier. If you are so inclined, you can actually add just a bunch of events and say keyboard, on key pressed, the A key, right? Then we're going to say player move. See, the set x is like player.x minus 50 or something like that. So now, if I press the A key, oh, well, this was not quite. Let's see, an A pressed, not A pressed. It would be on key is down while the A key is down, and set A minus 50, which might be a bit fast, but yeah, you can see I moved to the right, and then I died because I had the die thing. Let me delete that because I don't actually really like that for testing. But now I can move to the right with my arrow keys with the 8-direction behavior, and if I press the A key, you can see that my speed value is a bit too fast, so maybe I actually want it at like 10. But you can see I can actually implement all these manually using events. But we used 8-direction behavior because that just makes it a bit easier for us to get started with. And you know, Construct has these predefined behaviors, which are kind of nice. Rich Beltran says, can you make text appear afterwards? Yes, we can. That is in the tutorial. I would suggest you actually look in the tutorial on that because I have not done that in a while. Frets on Fire says, can you have the game close and restart when the player dies? Yes, you can. I believe that's in the tutorial. If not, I think there is literally an action saying system no, it doesn't have a restart game. Oh yeah, it says restart layout. So let's say if I bind the, let's say if I say maybe the escape key, I can bind the escape key to resetting everything. So move, escape, everything gets reset. Right. So I mean, you can add text, you can add a new layer to say game over, and then you can have a button that resets the layout like this. Okay, cool. Let's see if Rodrigo wanted help. Otherwise, it seems like. So I mean, I know it looks like a lot of what I'm doing is just really quick, sort of magic at times. But a lot of this stuff that you're asking me to do, I actually haven't really done before. So really, a lot of what I'm doing is really just exploring, hey, what objects do I have? What properties do they have to modify? And whatnot. If there's something that you can't really figure out by exploring, what I would suggest is just look at the tutorials, look at the manual. So if you go to the Construct website, you see the manual, and the manual is really, really comprehensive. And it shows like interface, the project primitives, the behavior references, tells you what all of these behaviors do. And then there's a bunch of tutorials. Like we just went through the intro tutorial on we just went through the intro tutorial to the beginner's guide, which is also how to make a platform game. building a platform game, a beginner's guide, and if you want to, you can go through these as well. Let's see if there's a 6 steps to play with players' minds, how to make a Facebook game. There's quite a few different tutorials. There's 60 pages of tutorials on the Construct website, and they're always really fun to go through. And if you can't figure it out, Google sometimes will also help. There might be some stuff in the forums and whatnot as well. So yeah. Great. Well, it looks like all of the questions are done now. So thank you so much for watching this webcast. Let me know how you enjoyed it or didn't enjoy it. If I went a little too fast or too slow. This is the first time that we've done online workshops for Code Day, and if they work well, we want to do more of them in the future. So let us know how you like them, and if you want to see more of them. I mean, giving us both constructive feedback in both positive and negative directions will definitely allow us to improve and do better online workshops in the future. Okay. Rodrigo says, when it comes to mobile and tablets, is there an option to make it possible to have the player to tap anywhere on the screen? And yes, it is indeed possible. What we can do in Construct is add the touch function, touch object. And see here in the touch object, it even asks you, do you want to use the mouse input? So do you want the mouse to count as touch? And now we can explore, okay, what exactly can touch do? Right, we can say compare the acceleration. If it's touching an object, you can say on the touch start, on the touch end, so on and so forth to do touch things. Otherwise, yeah, I'm not too familiar with touch. I haven't done too much with it, but I'm sure if you go to the Construct website, you go to the manual, and then let's see. The objects, and where I can just search name, which will probably be faster. So touch will, I mean, this part will just tell you everything that every single property of the touch will do, which is pretty cool. All right, sounds great. Well, thank you so much for watching, everyone, and I will hopefully see you at the next workshop or at Code Day. Rich is asking, would you say that people with no experience are ready for the next workshop after this? The next workshop is actually one where we'll be using code. So basically, the 2 and 4 p.m. Pacific time workshops. So that means the text message workshop and then the coder clicker workshops require you to have some knowledge of coding already. So like coding in either Java or C++, C#, or JavaScript, those sorts of languages. Otherwise, I mean, you can watch. You might not really understand what's going on because we are assuming that you have some knowledge of that. If you don't, one thing that I would suggest is going through a tool like Codecademy. Codecademy is a great online tool that helps you start learning JavaScript, and is kind of really fun to do. So that, or I mean, if you've gone to like AP Computer Science course or CS 101 course at college, then you should have enough knowledge to go through the 2 and 4 p.m. workshops. You don't really, if Hearts on Fire is asking if you need experience in a particular language, you don't really need experience in a particular language, I would say. I mean, we're going to be using specifically JavaScript for those 2 workshops, but I think that the main point is really similar to this workshop, to get you kind of oriented with the tools and where you should be looking for at resources, instead of really here's how to specifically do it. Because for all of these workshops, the goal is really to get you oriented with the tools and to get you so you can learn more in your own time versus us teaching you everything you need to know for Code Day. So Susanna's asking how much is some knowledge. I think I just explained it. There is some video lag, so please ask again if or clarify if you still have questions there. But if you're unsure, I mean, as I said, if you've taken AP Computer Science, CS 101, or done basic coding with actual programming language, then I would say you have enough experience. Otherwise, I mean, there's no harm in attending the first 10-15 minutes of the workshop, and if you're not quite understanding, just leaving. There's no harm in that at all. Okay. Well, thanks everyone for watching. I'm going to sign off now. If you have any further questions, you can either email or tweet at me. I'm under twitter.com/EdwardStarcraft, and I'll be here to answer questions. Otherwise, I'll just watch the YouTube comments for another few minutes after signing off for any further things. All right. See you at 2 p.m.